am a liberal, but I'm also a conservative.
No matter your side.
I'm a Democrat. I'm just a bit angry, frustrated conservative.
No matter your inclination.
I'm probably a liberal, maybe more in the middle.
We're here for your place to talk about it.
I'm the progressive liberal Democrat that you said is afraid to call you.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
I'm sure we'll have a robust conversation.
News Talk STL. This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Scattered thunderstorms from time to time today, the strongest of which could produce some winds and hail along with heavy downpours, but certainly not an all-day rain. 77 for the afternoon high. Storm chances pushing farther south with time today, and generally we catch a break in the storm action tonight, although isolated rain can't be ruled out, down to 58 for the low. More scattered storms possible Wednesday, and again, a few of them could be strong. Wednesday's high at 75. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
When it's important to you,
they always discuss the most important topics.
It's on News Talk STL.
A mass shooting at Florida State University.
The goal for me is to make the West great again.
The Justice Department is expected to take these cases to the Supreme Court.
There's a lot of people out there asking Democrats to do more.
News, analysis, opinion.
President Trump's orders will make a very strong deal that will allow American supremacy economically to continue.
#1 for live and local conservative talk.
My talk station.
News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
The time to rise has been engaged. We're better, best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. Your finest hour. Your finest hour.
Well, hello and welcome to Tuesday afternoon here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. We have got a lot to talk about today. We've got election results in Canada. Elections in Canada happening, not looking good for the Conservative Party up there in Canada. We've got the first 100 days of the Donald Trump administration. We're going to talk about, got some possible Republican division starting to show itself, a little bit of a spat happening on social media. We'll fill you in on the details of that. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is making news. It looks like he is letting everyone know that he is going to be a player in the next presidential cycle, which is pathetic still, that's their guy or one of their guys.
He thinks he's going to be a huge player.
He does.
In quotation marks.
He will be a huge player in one regard. But
Susie cringes.
Yes. And since Susie Moore was just in for Jamie Allman, we're switching things up a little bit. Susie is in studio with us. I'm making her stay, putting into overtime.
Chained to the studio here.
Usually Susie's with us at 3:00 on Tuesdays, but I thought it was silly for you to be done, go home, or go and then like make you come back and be on again. So thank you for putting in a little overtime.
Sure.
Susie Moore, RedState, in studio with us and on the line as he is every Tuesday afternoon for the entire 2:00 hour. Our good friend Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com. And Crane, even when company is in studio like Susie Moore, brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug.
A big lean in and squeeze and back off. That's what we do. We take a look around and we say, I'm glad JB Pritzker's at least running for something.
Yeah, well, he's gonna. I
running
believe,
is the key word there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
A little more running. Baby.
I'm not proud.
That's okay. He deserves it. So we'll get into this a little bit later on, but I think it's obvious that J.B. Pritzker is going to be at least exploring his options as far as running for president goes. And I watched a documentary over the weekend, a little mini documentary about what AOC's been up to in these rallies with Bernie Sanders. I'm more convinced than ever that AOC is also running for president, Susie. Do you think, and when you think about it, this is just absurd to say out loud, that J.B. Pritzker or AOC, Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, like another run of Kamala Harris, this is what they got. But it really is like, that's what they got. It's kind of pathetic, but I think that's the crop of people we're talking about. Do you agree, or do you see any other names in there that I'm missing?
I don't think we're going to see like Alyssa Slotkin or Amy Klobuchar busting out and being, because they don't have the charisma that you need to be. And AOC,
they're not any better, really.
Right.
I mean, they're not.
For whatever you want to say about her, she has that now. My suspicion is that AOC, given the fact that she's only just going to be 35 in 2028, I mean, she's old. She will be old enough to run in 2028. But if she were, let's say she were to run and win, even if she served 2 terms, she'd be done when she was 43. Then what's she going to do? Right. So I think what we're going to see, we might see her throw her hat in the ring just to kind of elevate her profile and prestige a little bit, but then angled towards party leadership in the House.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she wants to be a better Nancy Pelosi than Nancy Pelosi ever was.
Oh, wow. Well, and I think that my personal opinion is that the longer she is in Congress and the longer that she's in front of the American people, the less of a chance she has at winning. So I think that if she is going to ever have a shot, which I can't even imagine that it would be a realistic shot, but if she ever was going to have her best shot, I think for her, it's got to be sooner than later, because I think that as people get more and more exposed to her, much like Kamala Harris, they realize that she's maybe not the right person for the job.
The only thing I'll add to that is AOC is not Kamala Harris. And people underestimate her at their peril. No, she's definitely stepped in it a few times. She definitely isn't always the most intelligent with the points that she's making, but she's not somebody to be trifled with either.
And she can connect.
Yes.
Kamala Harris could not connect, even with Democrats.
She was vacant.
She did not have it. She could not have that emotional, motivational connection.
And AOC does.
And AOC does. I do agree with that. All right, like I said, we're going to talk about J.B. Pritzker and AOC and that whole thing a little bit later on in the hour. But wanted to start while we have Susie in studio with us, and Crane on the line, and Stell, of course, in studio here. Want to talk about the first 100 days in office. Obviously, the White House is celebrating Trump's victories and has throughout the day and even yesterday, and I'm sure we're going to continue to hear this for the next day or so. The White House putting out all of the what they believe are the successes of the Trump administration in this first 100 days. It's certainly been a very active first 100 days, whether you agree with, whether you're happy about what he's doing or not. You can't say that this president didn't get right down to business when he got into office. Crane, I have a couple specific things that I'm going to read here in a minute from various reports and what the White House is putting out today that I want to get your guys' thoughts on. But first, just overall, what are your thoughts on the first 100 days of the Trump administration? You can give them a grade, or you could just talk about, if you're happy, not happy. What do you think of the first 100 days?
Well, it's you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both,
and there you have
the facts of Trump. And that is that's John Podhoretz, by the way. He came up with that one. But here it is. There are things I really like, but I think the tariffs are undermining everything, and Ukraine is undermining his positions. He's done an outstanding job, illegal immigration. He's done an outstanding job getting rid of the disparate impact analysis. He's done, I mean, that's fantastic stuff. He's standing up for women in sports. He's handled those. But when you come up with a Liberation Day and basically seemingly abrogate our trade agreements with people that we've hammered these things out with over years and come up with fuzzy math at best, And I like, again, I say this and I'm like, oh, why do you do that? Because it's just hurting you and it's never worked. There's one, you can sit back and go, hey, this stuff really works. It doesn't. And everybody is going to be where I am at some point because they're going to realize, oh, not because I'm a genius. It is because 2 + 2 does not equal 5. And you can't make it equal 5. And he has put himself on a really bad track here. And he can reverse course. Very similar to the way I feel
You're
about
talking
Ukraine.
specifically about the tariff situation, correct?
Tariffs, yeah, sinking them and sinking the economy and not putting the focus on the big beautiful bill. I digress only to go to Ukraine and the way he has treated Ukraine. The vast majority of people still appreciate and understand how we won the Cold War, at least from Generation X on and above. Okay. I know millennials, maybe not, but the deal is you don't compliment a belligerent bully who is connected to the enemies of the United States because they are working together in some capacity. Just listen to Tom Cotton comment on this. Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia working together, and the Houthis through Iran. So you have this, and I think it's just a bad case. He has two things that are really undermining his success.
And Susie, as Crane points out, and I think it's important to do this, that unfortunately, we have to do this. You can like somebody, you can think they're the right person for the job, and you can still disagree with certain issues. Not everybody falls in line 100% of the time or falls into agreement 100% of the time. It's dumb that we have to make that. It's dumb that we have to say that, but then unfortunately, that's how it is these days.
Yeah,
it's like you're either with us or against us, and you're all in or you're all out, and that's just not how the real world or life works.
No, there's nobody you're going to agree with 100%. Right. And if you do, then you're either
this is a little weird
worshiping them or that is a problem.
Yeah.
No, I think it's important to be able to say, hey, I think where you're going with this, or I like what your idea is, but I don't think this, in practice is working or whatever. If you're offering constructive criticism and not just saying, oh, he's terrible, blah, 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 then you're helping. I mean, you want, I'm saying I want him to succeed.
Right.
I want us to succeed.
Right.
So I want to see, his policies and proposals and efforts pay off. There's, several that I kind of have reservations on, or I'm kind of waiting to see. I have learned to wait and see because sometimes he surprises you. But the thing that stands out to me the most as somebody who's covering this 24/7 is how well strategized this administration was. When he took office in January of 2017, I think, he was as surprised as anybody that he was the one doing that. And he wasn't sure, he didn't have his footing under him yet. He didn't know what he was dealing with.
Yeah.
He's so much better prepared. He's so much surrounded by better people that serve him well right now. And, from a law perspective, legal perspective, legally, I mean, they knew that they were going to draw lawsuit after lawsuit, but they've strategized on this. They've planned this out. It's clear to me that this was thought out. He's not just throwing stuff at the wall to see what's going to stick. They have a plan here, and it's clear that they do. And that is reassuring and encouraging.
So has there been, in your opinion, Susie, more good than bad? Are you generally
way more good
happy
than bad
with the first 100 days?
Yes.
Obviously,
yes. I'm agnostic on the tariffs. I understand the skepticism about them, but no, overall 100%. Even sometimes they're a little ham-fisted with some stuff, and I'm like, no, I might have gone about that a little bit differently. But no, I'm very much happy with this administration.
So while we
I ask a question real quick here,
please,
Susie, because of your legal background, you can provide so much context to things. The idea of Trump having a strategy when it comes to, say, deportations, because he's going to win 6 days a week and twice on Sunday on the politics of it. But the legal aspects, are you comfortable? Is there a strategy here to increase the power of the executive over the judiciary? Or is the strategy just going to say, hey, look, Congress, you're going to have to pass these laws, and I've already got the popular support. So as
just
this
try
goes,
to bulldoze
it turns out,
just try to bulldoze it and have popular opinion on your side.
My read on it has been that the strategy there is to kind of flesh out the fact that we do have this separation of powers, and each one has their sphere of influence and that they're supposed to be operating in. Keep in mind, a lot of what he's doing via executive order, they're asking Congress to codify. They're asking the legislature to buy in. A lot of it, they're pushing the courts, and they're saying, is this, we think this is right, that they're daring the courts to say no and let them know where it's wrong. But I think overall, what they're doing is basically redefining, or well-defining, I shouldn't say redefining, but better defining what the particular roles and areas of influence and their spheres of influence are, and what the scope of their authority is. What the judiciary has done is gotten caught with its pants down. I say that as somebody who defends the judiciary all the time.
Right.
I think that they have failed to recognize the importance of upholding, reining themselves in while acting as a check on the executive. If the executive's going too far, they should act as that check. But they've gotten so caught up in the personality of it, they've forgotten what their role is.
And exposing that is, I think, part of Trump's plan.
I think so too.
Is forcing the courts to be public and make their rulings and expose if there is, what they refer to as activist judges, or, people that aren't following the law in the judicial.
100% think that.
While we have Susie here, I want to get a couple, and this is a perfect setup to that, Crane. So thank you. I want to get everybody's thoughts, but while we have Susie here, I want to definitely talk about a couple of these legal issues that were being talked about in this, all the first 100-day talk. So a lot of the conversation and opinions today have been regarding Trump and his relationship with various courts and judges. So I'm going to mention a couple of these issues. And Susie, you go first. Tell me if you think it's like the issue is legit, it's real, and if what Trump is doing is a good idea. So from one of these stories today, quote, Trump and some congressional allies have threatened impeachment against judges who defy Trump, but so far Congress has not advanced any impeachment articles. Do you think that Trump and his administration are going to go after judges and try to impeach them as we continue through this administration?
No, I think it's a losing proposition, and I think they know that, but I think they're throwing that out there to have it be part of the conversation, because it is a power. I mean, it is an option. It's not a realistic option, but I think they're throwing that out there to drive the conversation.
Crane, your thoughts on impeachment? Do you think it's more of a threat, or do you think it's something that Trump intends to follow through on?
I hope it is a threat, and just that. I agree. Susie knocked it out of the park in the analysis. I totally agree.
So taking it a step further than impeachment, if there's also been plenty of reports that the administration is investigating what they call activist judges to possibly arrest and charge these judges with things. And the White House recently used the situation in New Mexico where this exact thing has happened as an example of what the administration could do if they decide to continue, if they decide to push it that far. If you don't think so Susie, I'll let you go first, obviously, but I mean, if impeachment is already a step too far, this would be, I think, really going for it.
Well, I think the problem there is with how that's being framed. I don't think the purpose of going after any particular judge is, or should be, because they think that person is an activist and they don't like the way they're ruling. It should be because that person broke the law. What we had in New Mexico and Wisconsin are judges who broke the law.
Yeah.
I mean, it was plain and simple. And neither one of those judges was on the Trump administration radar. They're not overseeing cases involving the Trump administration. So this wasn't about their policy preferences and them being against the Trump administration. It was because they broke the law. And it should be whether they're a judge, a doctor, or a lawyer, teacher, whatever. If you're breaking the law, if you're harboring an illegal, if you're helping them escape from the courthouse when they're supposed to be being held criminally liable for something else and then going to be taken into custody, you're breaking the law. And I don't care what your profession is.
Right.
We should prosecute you.
Yeah. And I amen to that, Crane. I agree with what Susie there said. 100%.
Nobody's above the law.
Yeah. And going after judges for any other reason would be stooping to the level of the Democrats and what we've seen the Biden administration do. So that is not something that I would like to see the Trump administration continue forward. You got any thoughts on this?
I absolutely agree. It's the weaponization over policy, or somebody using the power of the federal government going after and targeting people. It's just dangerous and wrong, and it shouldn't be done. I think there's one question on President Trump targeting one particular person who used to work on his campaign. I don't know enough about it, but the concerns are there and they've been raised. And I oppose it. The weaponization of the justice system, flat out wrong.
Yeah, if it's wrong on one side, it's wrong on both sides. Still, do you have any thoughts specifically about the Trump administration's relationship with courts around the country and how this is, I mean, legal challenges to Trump's actions are going to be a continuing part of his presidency. What do you
for me,
about the future of that?
It seems to all around. I know this is somewhat simplistic, but I'm going to say a lot of it seems to revolve around the idea of the art of the deal. And he's always looking at how can I maneuver this situation so that somehow I can win. And if it means some sort of judicial issue and trying to impeach someone, I agree with Susie that I don't think it would be worth the effort trying to do it.
Yeah.
But I think he throws it out there as part of his style of doing the art of the deal. There are so many other issues, like the tariff issue, I think is the art of the deal. And he's not necessarily trying to figure out a way to punish all these different nations. He's tried to be very fair in many cases. But I think that aspect of the art of the deal seems to drive everything for him.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I can't tell you how many times you hear that, from people that have read the book. Anytime he does anything, Susie, you hear like, he put it in the book. He's doing exactly what he said he would do when it comes to, just about any of these things. Well, it's been a crazy 100 days just to even try to keep up with everything that this administration, this president has done so far. And, it's only going to continue at that pace as we go forward. So,
I mentioned to Susie earlier that I think the next 100 days are going to be even more intense.
Yeah. I mean, there's some, we don't have time to get into, I'd written down a couple other things, Susie. I mean, there's some other big legal challenges to his executive orders that I personally find like really interesting, but also I think are going to challenge, the way that we interpret the Constitution in some areas. And for example, the birthright citizenship one. I mean, that's a big one. So to Sel's point, the next 100 days and the rest of this year, is going to be just as hectic as.
Oh yeah.
And the continuing border issue and trying to figure out how to handle this deportation logjam that's there. We've had almost 20 million. Now, who knows? Could be even more than that. Could be even less. Tom Homan now has been coming out saying at least 20 million came into this country. How is that problem going to be solved? Yeah. And you have the whole idea of having due process for everyone. My goodness, Susie can tell you how slow the wheels turn. Right. I mean, you'd have probably due process for some of these folks going to 2150. Year 2150.
We're going to continue with some of these issues and some of the stories surrounding the first 100 days of Trump's administration, as well as some of the other headlines of the day. But let's cut Susie Moore loose. She's done enough for one day, and you'll be back tomorrow.
I will be back
from noon to 2.
That's correct.
So we'll see you again tomorrow. Of course, you can read Susie's articles every day at RedState.com and Red State Radio every Sunday at 4 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. Susie, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be listening tomorrow. And we will continue the conversation with Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com as we roll through this busy Tuesday afternoon on Colombo Company.
When you've got something to say, be heard loud and clear.
If they'll just do what they were voted in to do.
This party needs to get a backbone. They need to get some spine.
Join the conversation. St. Louis's place to talk.
The Democrats and the Republicans can give us all the lip service they want, but what they need to do is take action today.
101.9 and 94.1.
You have to take a stand sometimes.
This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion.
Tony cut me loose, but before I go, there was something I wanted to share with you guys. It's getting nice out. setting aside the thunderstorms. It's getting to be that time of year where you want to spend time outside, but when you come inside, you look at your house and you think, oh, I really, really need to update this flooring. And I am here to tell you about who you should go with. A locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. It's Michael's Flooring. I've used them in the past. I had a great experience with them. I know you will too. So that's why I'm recommending them. If it's variety that you're looking for, well, they've got it. They've got laminate, hardwood, carpet, you name it. Michael's has it. And you also know with Michael's that they're going to do the installation right the first time because you're relying on the experts at Michael's and not just some random subcontractor. You know you can count on them. With Michael's, you get great value and great quality. So can't recommend them enough. You need to go check them out if you are in the market for flooring. You can check out their one of their in-store locations. There's 3 of them. There's one on Main Street in St. Peters, on Olive and Creve Coeur, and on Town Square in Darting Prairie. Or you can check them out from the comfort of your own home. You can just go online to igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Got a new Saturday night show.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. 3 big hours of great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Plus bits and pieces that'll take you back to the best years of your past.
The stinking Mets are in town this weekend. We'll revisit the Pond Scum days. Plus, it's Cinco de Mayo weekend. And our A-list interview is with Kenny Loggins, presented by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. News Talk STL.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colony.
Sweet. I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
Don't let uninvited guests throw parties in your home. At All Solutions Pest Control, we stop pest parties before they start. Visit allsolutionspestcontrol.com for your free estimate.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The push to rein in taxes in Missouri is getting stronger every day, and our friend David Stokes of the Show Me Institute was at the Capitol testifying. Find out if we still have to pay property taxes next year.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. This is 101.9 and 94.1.
I have to tell you, if this is how they're going to behave, I'm rethinking my position.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Another big thanks to Susie Moore from RedState for sticking around after filling in for Jamie this afternoon and starting the show with us here today. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Stell, and of course on the line with us, as he is every Tuesday afternoon, is our good friend Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. And Crane, I want to shift gears here for a moment and talk about a public spat between 2 well-known, powerful members of the Republican Party that has unfolded basically today. Kind of this morning is when this all really got going. And I don't know, maybe it's nothing, but maybe it's a sign of something deeper. I would love to get your opinion on it. So here's the situation. Elise Stefanik undercuts Speaker Johnson in stunning public house GOP spat. According to the headline, it's stunning. But I'm not sure that it is. We'll make our own minds up. Representative Elise Stefanik appeared to accuse Speaker Mike Johnson of lying about discussing the New York governor's race with her today. So this is something that we have talked about. Stella and I have talked about on the show, that Elise Stefanik is being rumored to be interested in possibly running for governor in New York, which would be, amazing if a Republican, especially a Republican that is so close to the Trump administration, would be able to win a statewide election in the state of New York. I'm not sure that that's possible, but it would certainly be a very interesting thing to watch. So anyway, Johnson said he was having conversations with Stefanik and her fellow New York Republican representative, Mike Lawler, who is another Republican that has been discussed as possibly running for governor there in the state of New York. When asked if he had talked to Stefanik and Lawler about them running for governor, Johnson said in an interview, quote, "I love them both. They're two of my favorite people and most trusted colleagues, and they're both super talented, which is why they get talked about for doing other things. I mean, my preference is they all stay here with me, right? But I don't begrudge anybody for having other opportunities, and ultimately we support them in whatever they do. But are we having conversations? We are. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to say about it." So he was asked directly if he'd talked to them about running for governor, Stefanik and Lawler, and that last line, "But are we having conversations? We are. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to say about it." Prompting Stefanik to almost immediately post on Twitter, on X, a statement that said, with that quote, she posted that story where Speaker Johnson said that, and she put, "This is not true. I've had no conversations with the speaker regarding the governor's race." That's it. But it is interesting to me. So I don't know if this is a stunning public GOP spat, but it is interesting, Crane, that she felt compelled to call out the speaker publicly on Twitter. So it's got to mean something. What do you make of this? Is this something, or is it nothing?
There is always that chance, and you point this out pretty regularly, that it could be a misquote from that. I think it is probably talked about them staying and how talented they were and the possibilities of running for governor. And you can talk about things in a different way. Some would say not actually running or doing that, but that's a possibility or something like that.
But to play, to look into it, to look into it and maybe look into it a little bit too much. I agree with you. But then if you're at least Stefanik, why jump to a public, publicly calling the Speaker of the House a liar rather than checking to see if it was a misquote or not? It just seemed like, it was a quick response, and, calling, saying that you could phrase it however you want to. You could say, that she said something he said wasn't true, or you could say she called him a liar. And I mean, both of those things are kind of the same. So
I don't see the purpose of her doing that. And even if she does disagree, right? I don't see the purpose. What's your end game? How do you want this to end? What are you going to begin with the end in mind? And just across the board, I would say that Mike Johnson, I don't think he's really capable of being the typical politician. I think he's just a solid guy who answers things matter-of-factly.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you, Crane, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I do agree with Crane. Like, why jump to it if it, which makes me think, well, I agree, unless this is a sign of something deeper. Like there's a deeper rift or issue between Elise Stefanik and the Speaker of the House, or, a group of Republicans that Stefanik is siding with against the Speaker of the House, that she would be, looking for an opportunity to take a shot at him publicly.
I guess I would be surprised if there's a rift there. There certainly could be behind closed doors. But I think back to, when was the last Republican governor? I think it was George Pataki.
Sounds right.
And he may have served multiple terms, if I remember correctly, mid-90s to the mid-2000s, like maybe 95. I remember I looked it up when we had discussed this a little bit last week, and I think he was in office from 95 to 06. So he had 3 terms. And if you go back through the years looking at governors in New York, there were Republicans off and on. So it's not as though it's something that would never happen. It has happened in the past. Granted, 2006 to 2025 and beyond, that's a pretty healthy string there of Democratic wins.
And you could say that the same thing exists for Illinois.
Yes,
it wasn't that long ago that there was a Republican governor in Illinois. It seems impossible in today's political climate.
True.
To envision a Republican governor in New York and Illinois, but you're right, Stella, and I think it's important to realize that it's not like ancient history. It's not like impossible. History shows us that Republicans can win.
And I would love to see her run.
Yeah, I would too.
I think she would make a great candidate.
Yeah, I talked about this before. She was my original pick for vice president. She was the one that I thought would be the best choice for Donald Trump before he chose Vance. So I agree. I think she's a very solid candidate. And just the last thing on this, Crane, and we'll just have to keep an eye on it. But Stell said he would be surprised if there was a rift or a problem there, except for there is now because she just called him a liar publicly.
That would cause a rift.
So you know what I mean? Yeah. So if there wasn't a rift, what are we doing? And if there is a rift, it's something that we should, we should probably keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some rifts within the party, and they're going to be over tariffs, and they're going to be over Ukraine and the overall policies there. And I think they're healthy risks. One has to do with the constitutional powers of Congress, taking those back. The other has to do with the reality of the Ukraine and how that started and could end.
So speaking of JB Pritzker, let's in just a moment here, let's talk about JB Pritzker, because he is back in the headlines today. He has reignited speculation that he will be running for the Democratic nominee for president in 2028, and said some some pretty controversial things here recently, kind of turning up the heat with his rhetoric a little bit. So I'm going to play you that sound, and we'll get everybody's reaction to it as we continue the conversation here on Colombo and Company. Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com is with us, and we'll talk about JB Pritzker and maybe some of these other Democrats that could be possibly gearing up for a presidential run. Next.
It can't be said I'm an early bird. It's 10 o'clock before I say a word. Baby, I can never tell. How do you sleep so well? You keep telling me to live right, to go to bed before the daylight, but then you wake up for the sun to rise. You know you don't gotta pretend.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
So I have said it many times and year round that if you have never visited the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store in Old Town St. Peter's, you need to get out there and check them out, because they've got so many great products and services that they can almost assuredly help you with something around your home or on your property. But especially this time of year, as we're finally getting into some decent weather, not today, but it's warming up, and we've seen some sun, and we've got some more nice days coming our way. This is really the perfect time of year to get out there and see all the things that they can do for you. If you ask me to, as simply describe Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store as possible, the old term of farm and home store, but think of a farm and home store that has just everything. I mean, so many great products and services that can help you with your lawn and garden, with animal care, with property management. I mean, they do it all. Smaller services, like they'll replace any size propane tank for about half the price of a new one, and so much more. You just got to get out there and check them out for yourself, because I'm telling you, you will be blown away with all the products and services that they offer there at the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store in Old Town St. Peters. They are on 2nd Street, right behind the QT at 70 and Mid Rivers Mall Drive. If you've ever seen the big 2-story grain elevator, which you can see all the way from the interstate, that's them. That's the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store. Get out there and check them out. Or you can also learn more by visiting their website, oldtowncountrystore.com.
Springtime in St. Louis means one thing. That's right. Golf is back, baby. Sugar Creek Golf Course is located in High Ridge, just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. To book your tee time or to learn more about the special event and banquet facilities, simply visit sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Never paint again with Rhino Shield. Listen to what a couple of happy customers have to say.
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted. Our building was really faded. You came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
What a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. They were very thoughtful, kind, considerate guys. Appreciate all the work that these two young men did.
Call Rhino Shield, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
Yes.
I forgot you're a big fan of Eric Carmen, aren't you?
I'm a big fan of Patrick Swayze.
Okay.
Maybe the greatest actor in human history. Maybe the greatest man in human history.
Well, next to Crane, maybe.
Next to Crane, exactly.
Hey,
That's a really good point.
Patrick Swayze over me any day.
Responsible for 2 of the greatest movies of all time in Roadhouse and Point Break. And then also, I'm not afraid to say that Dirty Dancing is at the top of the list as well. So,
yeah,
that's as good as it gets. All right, welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9.
She's like the wind.
That's exactly right. Speaking of beautiful men, Rain Durham from nothingbutTruth.com on the line with us. Stealth Babe in studio, of course. I'm Tony Colombo, and we've got some J.B. Pritzker ridiculousness to talk about. The Illinois governor reignited speculation about his 2028 presidential ambitions this weekend, and he's created some controversy for his mass protests demands at this event that he was at. So J.B. Pritzker was speaking at the New Hampshire Democrat Party's annual fundraising gala this weekend, Pritzker became the first potential Democratic candidate to visit New Hampshire or any early primary state since the last election in November. And while speaking to the group there, he said this, quote, "Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must fight them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box." He also went on to say, quote, "It's time to fight everywhere and all at once." And there are many people on social media and Republican pundits and Republican politicians saying that this is a step too far, that he is, especially after 2 assassination attempts against the current president, that saying things like Republicans cannot know a moment of peace and we have to fight them everywhere and all at once, is a little bit of a signal and maybe a little bit of cover for people that take the protests a step or 2 or 10 too far. What are your thoughts on that, Crane?
I think this guy's an idiot, and I think he's a dangerous idiot. He's a big, fat, dangerous idiot, and I'm not talking about his personal appearance.
Agree.
Okay, but I could.
Yes.
The fact is, this is not what America wants. We don't have protests in this country. We have people breaking the law consistently and fighting cops when they enforce the law. You have a bunch of idiots on the highway blocking people from going to work, disrupting. This guy's gone Maxine Waters, and I thought he had a higher IQ than that, but apparently he doesn't, because he is calling for something that universally Americans are tired of. They want the rule of law. Say what you will about President Trump. I happen to agree with his border stance. I love it. I think it's great. I think you should follow the law when it comes to the deportations. Absolutely. But people are cheering this. This is a place where he's above water. He hasn't lost support there because they see the rule of law upheld. People are tired of the anti-rule of law behavior and calling it protests. You've got a lot of jackassery out there, pardon my language, when it comes to these punks who are oftentimes, as we've learned, paid by leftists.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have an entire campaign coordinated against the upholding of the rule of law by Soros with these prosecutors.
Yeah.
And so I think he's taking the Democratic Party into a very bad direction. I thought he had more sense, but I guess I'm not terribly surprised. I mean, you look at the state and look at Chicago, and I feel for the people there because there are a lot of great people in Illinois, including my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and my nephews. And I got to tell you, I feel bad for them.
Well, it's a very red state. Once you get south of Chicago, I mean, it's a very red state. Is
south of
Illinois.
I-80.
Yeah,
in Chicago. That's what they say.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, and Stella, I want to get your thoughts on this too. I've said this in the past. Normally, I'm somebody who, and I think we are all like this. I understand when somebody's, when Donald Trump says that an election is going to be a bloodbath, I know that he's not calling for war. I know that he's not calling for violence. Or when somebody says that we've got so-and-so on our crosshairs, doesn't mean that they're going out to try to shoot them or assassinate them. However, we have been told by the Democrats over and over and over again that using language like that is inciting violence and calling for violence. And they've accused Republicans of that over and over again. So if that's the rules, then we all need to play by the same rules. You just flip test this. If there was a Republican out there, especially a Republican is as well known and high up in the party as a JB Pritzker is for the Democrats, and they said these Democrats cannot know a moment of peace. We must fight them everywhere with everything. The Democratic Party would be screaming at the top of their lungs that that person is trying to incite violence, political violence against them. So if those are your rules, then you need to play by them. You can't have it both ways. So that's where I think, Stella, you got a quick thought on that?
Yeah, here's a portion of the 10-point playbook that has been issued by the Democratic Party over the last few weeks. I'm just going to mention a couple of them. We have to create chaos. Anything that Donald Trump says, we have to create chaos. Anything that Elon Musk says and cabinet member initiatives, we have to go hysterical. In association with that, it's also very important for us to use the F word, the S word, and the D word.
Yes.
We're going to make videos where we use this profanity. We're going to shout that out in Congress. The point is that we want to appeal to the lost middle-class supporter. You think that's going to appeal to them? I don't think so.
That's that idiotic, dark, woke
approach. Exactly. We have to sound earthy.
Yeah.
And we plan on doing that. We have to be much more radical in our opposition. So when Trump speaks before Congress, we need to shout him down. You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but you guys are out in left field.
Yeah,
you guys are in the bleachers.
So far gone. And Crane, I said this earlier when we mentioned this story while Susie was still here. When I watched that quote and we talk about this story, I can't help think to myself, this is their guy. This is JB Pritzker is one of the top contenders for the Democratic presidential nominee. What a pathetic situation the Democrats find themselves in. If JB Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, AOC, if these are your number one contenders, Susie Moore made a great point. Don't take them lightly, certainly, but man, that is not a murderer's row lineup. If that was a sports team, I said this the other day, if that was a sports team, we'd be talking about how they're in a rebuilding year.
Exactly.
This is not this is not the team that takes you to a championship.
And I got to say, what in the world happened to Gavin Newsom?
Yeah.
He was at the top of the list, and now all of a sudden it seems as though he's disappeared.
I think he's
He's got plenty of time. I realize that, but still.
He actually tried to find common cause with the opposition. I know it's purely for politics, but
on his podcast,
that's what on his podcast. So he reached out, and you can't do that. You can't normalize half the country or over half the country, because if you do, then you recognize that your platform is awful and it will never work.
Yeah. Yep. And this is we talk about how much Trump has done in his first 100 days. Republicans need to stay on the same page, and they need to keep their foot on the accelerator, and they need to take advantage of how far gone, like Stell just said, how far out in left field the Democratic Party is, because they've got common sense and they've got the majority on their side right now, and it's up to them to deliver while they have all of that momentum on their side.
And I know we have some listeners who are Democrats. Hey, call in and explain that to us, because we don't understand that.
Yeah. Message us. We're always watching on the social media live streams and in the chat boxes there, to steal a word from Vic. We'd love to hear your thoughts on both sides, opposed or with us. So let us know, and we'll definitely have those conversations, bring those up. All right, Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com is actually sticking around, put a little bonus time in with us. So we will continue the conversation with Crane here next on Colombo Company.
I'm Danny Cohn, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. This past week, the Jewish holiday of Yom HaShoah commemorated the 80th anniversary of the Holocaust and remembered the 6 million Jews who were murdered by the Nazis in World War II. As Jews, when we recall the atrocities of the Holocaust, we say, never again. This is not a slogan or a tagline. It's a responsibility we all share to prevent the systematic hatred from going unchecked. When we work together to fight against prejudice and bigotry towards everyone, we create a better community for everyone.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. President Trump will hold a rally in Michigan to mark the first 100 days of his second term. First, he's making an afternoon visit to Selfridge Air National Guard Base for an announcement alongside Democratic Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Whitmer met with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in February to push for the expansion of the base's operations. The president will speak at the rally later north of Detroit in Warren. Speaking to reporters, Deputy Chief Scott Tarter of the Chatham Police Department in Illinois says a car smashed into a building Monday afternoon, killing 4 people and injuring several others.
A vehicle drove into the east side of the building. The vehicle struck multiple persons outside of the building before continuing through the building and exiting out on the west side of the structure.
The audio courtesy of WICS TV. The driver was not injured, was taken to a hospital for evaluation. Police said toxicology reports are pending. The driver, a 44-year-old woman, was not in custody this morning. Also at townhall.com, on the economic front, job cuts coming to UPS.
UPS is looking to slash 20,000 jobs and close more than 70 facilities. That's as it's drastically reducing the amount of Amazon shipments it handles. It plans to close 73 leased and owned buildings by the end of June. UPS said that it's still reviewing its network and may identify more buildings to be closed. In January, UPS announced that it reached a deal with its biggest customer, Amazon, to lower its volume by more than half by the second half of next year. The company also said they'd partnered with Amazon for almost 30 years, and when its contract came up this year, UPS decided to reassess the relationship. I'm Haya Panjwani.
The Dow was up by 300 points today. The Nasdaq gained 95. More at townhall.com.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got some dry time coming our way this evening, but a few showers and storms are possible in the morning. Not severe, low 57, high 75 in the afternoon. And it's a First Alert Weather Day Wednesday because we're focused on a threat for severe storms in the late afternoon to evening hours. So a strong storm or two possible as a warm front comes back to town on Wednesday. On Thursday, a cold front comes to town, and so we have more scattered storms in the forecast with a high of 76. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Jewels on Hampton, paying some of the highest prices for your gold, silver, diamonds, and more. Call 314-752-5000 or visit jewelsonhampton.com.
Fox News commentary.
A radical judge out of Minnesota requires prosecutors to consider racial identity when handing out plea deals. I'm Tommy Laren. More next.
Something amazing is happening when power outages strike. Teams are powering through them. That's because CDW Solutions architects are building more resilient IT and electrical infrastructures with Schneider Electric. With EcoCare remote monitoring services and 24/7 support, your organization can do more than keep the lights on. Schneider Electric and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Schneider Electric.
Judges, especially in deep blue jurisdictions, have gone wild. Here's another example. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty out of Minnesota not only declined to criminally prosecute the Tesla terrorist caught keying several vehicles, but now she's come up with this. Starting this week, prosecutors in the county will be required to consider a defendant's race when offering a plea deal. The policy directs prosecutors to consider the whole person, which I guess means race and age, as a part of the overall picture, because racial disparities harm the community and have a negative impact on safety. So basically, this new requirement suggests certain racial groups should get better deals to ensure fairness. Make that make sense. Not only does this directive sound incredibly racist, it may also be unconstitutional. Justice is supposed to be blind, but this policy directs prosecutors to be anything but. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The secret side of me, I never let
Well, welcome back to Colombo Company on 119.94.1 News Talk STL. Susie Moore was with us at the beginning of the show today because she was filling in for Jamie Allman this afternoon. Susie Moore typically joins us to start the 3 o'clock hour, but she started the 2 o'clock hour with us this week. So Crane Durham is putting in a little overtime to cover this beginning of the 3 o'clock hour. So Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com, the Nothing But Truth Facebook page, still with us. And thank you as always, buddy.
Thank you. Love talking with you all. And it was great to be on with Susie. She's fantastic.
Absolutely. If you missed that conversation, make sure that you are subscribed to our podcast, the Colombo and Company podcast, because that's the best way to make sure that never happens, that you never miss anything that happens here on the show. We put it out, we put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day. We put it on basically every podcast platform. So wherever your favorite place to get podcasts is, make sure you are subscribed to Colombo and Company. And don't forget, you can also get our podcast through the News Talk STL app. Another very simple way to make sure that you never miss anything that happens on the show. Just to access the podcast right there through the News Talk STL app. All right, Crane, I wanted to, this was not in my notes for today, but since we were just talking about this and Stell was reading that list of, what is it like?
Like Democratic political points,
like
that they want to focus on now.
Their new approach,
yes,
their official way that they are combating the Trump administration and Republicans in 2025 by going pretty extreme.
Yep. Here's our new playbook.
And it's we don't be afraid to use the F word. Don't be afraid to call names and curse and
create chaos
and be super aggressive. And, right in line with what we were just talking about with JB Pritzker over the weekend, where he said that Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. He said, never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. So it all goes back to, and I mentioned this a moment ago, but I don't know if you've heard this. We talked about it, I think once on the show when I first learned about it. I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Democrats are calling their rebrand dark woke. Resistance Democrats are starting to abandon civil politics in favor of a new proactive and combative approach that they refer to as dark woke. The term dark woke refers to an online meme that gained popularity amid Donald Trump's inauguration, but it goes along with all of those things that Stell just laid out. This new approach, this new version of the Democratic Party and their resistance to Trump and the Republicans to this
It sounds like their counter proposal to dark MAGA.
Reading a quote from one of these stories. There is an extreme imbalance in strategy that allows Republicans to say stuff that really grabs voters' attention. We're stuck saying boring pablum. I see this strategic shift within the Democratic messaging. I'm a big fan of dark woke. This is somebody who is the former digital director for the Wisconsin Democratic Party in a New York Times article recently. They go on to talk about how this, like basically the Jasmine Crockett, what we've seen from Jasmine Crockett is a perfect example, Crane, of dark woke, saying things like Governor Hot Wheels and dropping the F-bomb and being super aggressive. I think it's horrible. I think it's a dumb political strategy because I don't think it scores you points with voters, maybe a very, very small group of idiots, but I don't think that is a way to gain broad support or mass support from voters across the country. And it's also obviously just dangerous to be firing up some of the worst intentioned people out there. What are your thoughts on dark woke?
Well, the idea that they don't say outrageous things, their entire platforms outrageous and bizarre and attention grabbing. They can't define a woman. I mean, really, let's go here. They had a president that was in office who wasn't there. Non compos mentis. I mean, this is, you had Kamala Harris, who's a total empty suit, and now you think it's going to be cursing that's going to bring you back? The mainstream media, your greatest protector, has been exposed for the shills they are. And so they're going to come back and be more crass, and that's going to get those, I guess they'll get the protester class, the anti-Semitic Hamas supporters. You'll get the idiots, and the ignorant. Sometimes not always the same thing. They could be actually pretty bright, just not informed because they are on a college campus. So there's a lot going on here, and it shows you that it reminds me a little, not just because they're both fat, but because Chris Christie went after Donald Trump and tried to play the tough guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they don't understand is when Trump was bringing up things that everybody cared about, but the mainstream media just whistled past the graveyard on, literally, unfortunately, this time, immigration or the price of food or the price of energy and or our respect in the world, okay? He was chiming into things that were actual. Nobody thinks that Democrats need to get more radical. We have enough.
Except Democrats.
Yes.
Yeah. Except Democrats, which is crazy to me that they've so lost the plot. They have so missed the message sent by voters across the country in November that they think that they lost because they didn't dig their heels in enough, that they didn't go far enough with these lunatic progressive issues. And I mean, how you interpret that, how you get that answer from what voters said in November is mind-boggling. But that's what they believe, many of them. And I think the majority of them, Crane, believe that they need to try harder and go further, not bring it back to common sense. Go ahead.
Let me ask you both this. I look at anytime I've seen a leftist confronted at a protest, they say these hysterical things like Trump is a racist or something along those lines. And anytime they are asked for evidence, they get emotional. They're totally emotional, or they try to physically intimidate the people. Now, you say that's a generalization. Sure it is. Please go out and check out the videos of asking them what they would do, what is their policy, what makes President Trump racist, okay? These things, they don't have anything. They just have this raw, visceral knee-jerk reaction, hating Trump. They're very good at directing a villain, finding a villain, and zeroing in on that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to make a case, really. They just can vilify.
They don't run for anything. They run against something.
It's the epitome of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah. But they don't have they're so on the wrong side of just about every issue when it comes to support around the country that they know they can't run on those. They know they can't run on those items, so they have to run against Donald Trump or against whatever it may be. They have to create fear and anger and use that to run instead of actually running for something, which gets me back to the point that I was making a moment ago, Crane, as we talk about Donald Trump's first 100 days in office and all the progress that he's made, much more good than bad, in my opinion, that the Republican Party keeps going. They keep their foot on the accelerator, as I mentioned earlier, because this is lunacy from the Democratic Party, and to take advantage of just how lost they are would be the way that the Republicans can continue to move forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's eternal vigilance, and take back the school boards. Understand that you're dealing with a class of people, it seems, that feel entitled to their power and job and the abuse of it by not going with the core curriculum, even when there is change, by not following the policy. They think they're above it. And this is a problem overall with this whole idea of an elite class running the world, like, hey, let's surrender to the really smart people. Well, supposedly Barack Obama was smart. Do you look at his presidency? Not very bright, in my opinion. Maybe he can do really well on board games. I don't know. But the point is, I'm not seeing a lot of genius coming out of the progressive movement because it's the progressive movement, and they retard economic growth. They, in essence, are deconstructionists of the American dream.
Absolutely. Before we run out of time with Crane, I want to talk about the elections in Canada, because there's a massive Trump influence on that. If you want more on the dark woke situation in this new Democratic Party, the Larry Connors commentary that plays here in just about 10 minutes still is about that. And I know Larry's got more about this new Democratic approach, both in the commentary this afternoon and in his show this evening. Of course, Larry Connors USA every evening, 6 to 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL. Crane, before we let you go, there is a narrative, a very strong narrative in the Canadian media now that the Liberal Party up there has claimed a big election victory today, that this is a backlash to Donald Trump. I read a poll that was conducted in December, and then again last week. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember which polling outlet did this, but it showed in December that the Conservative Party in Canada, according to the polls, was way ahead of the Liberal Party for the elections that are happening right now. And as of last week, according to those polls, that advantage had completely disappeared. And the media narrative up in Canada is that Donald Trump it inflated the liberal message with his rhetoric about becoming the 51st state and the tariff situation that I know you're very passionate about, and we've talked a whole lot about here. Canada's a different, it's a different type of voter than there is down here in the United States. And I think that some people that even may lean conservative, they don't like to hear another world leader saying you're gonna be the 51st state and come on board. And it maybe turned some of those people that would have otherwise voted conservative to liberal up there in Canada. I don't know. I'm not a Canadian, but that's the the major media narrative that they're running with in Canada today as these election results come in. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And we have this thing in tennis is like unforced errors.
Yeah.
These are all unforced errors. And that's why I want my President Trump, the man I voted for, to succeed. But doing these silly trolls and talking about the 51st state does you no good. It doesn't advance the ball forward. And you got to have a game plan. Begin with the end in mind. This is like our number one ally. We trade more of them than anybody. And so I'm thinking, why are we doing this?
Mhm.
What's the strategy?
Now, I do think that there are large swaths of Canadians that love Donald Trump and would love to be United States citizens because they don't like the Canadian government. But I think I agree with you, Crane. I think by and large, that just rubs people the wrong way, even people that are center right or would vote conservative. That this kind of they don't like that, and it's unbelievable that the influence of the American president would be so much, it would have such an impact on another country's election. But I agree with you. I think that they're running wild with it. If you go to any of the Canadian news sources, I mean, they are like, it's pretty extreme. I'm not sure it's as emotional as some of the media outlets up there are making it out to be. But I definitely agree that I do think that I do think that there was an impact there. Still, what do we talked about this a little bit yesterday. You have any thoughts on if Trump had a role in boosting the Liberal Party to victory in Canada?
I think he probably did, even if it was just an infinitesimal influence. The fact that those statements were made, Trudeau, I believe, announced his resignation in January. So you had all that stuff going on at the same time. His resignation, Trump getting inaugurated into office. And here we are now at the end of April. And what should have been a conservative win now is a Liberal win. But I don't believe they have the majority in their parliament. So there is still going to be infighting going on.
That I don't think has been decided yet. I don't think we have all all of the results in.
Here's the shocking thing to me, that folks up there who are notoriously liberal, especially for Quebec, Ontario, towards the Maritimes, all the way over, staunchly liberal. And then you've got the conservatives in the prairie provinces and some in British Columbia. They decide to vote for not the conservative guy, but the Goldman Sachs neoliberal neocon kind of guy. And we'll put him into office and we'll continue this oppression, which is what I call it, that they've had to live under for the last 10 to 12 years, everything that Trudeau threw at them, everything that went on during COVID, especially in provinces like Quebec, which was unheard of, the stuff that went on there. Folks left Quebec just because they couldn't handle what was going on. So all I'm saying is it's shocking to see that happen. But then again, it happens in cities and states here in this country where folks just go ahead and vote the same thing.
Yeah, and if I were talking to one of those Canadian voters that switched because of Donald Trump, I would have to ask them, you're really going to let the president of a different country
influence
alter your vote to, in my opinion, damage the future of your country?
Yes.
But that's not my fight, Crane. And that is not, that's not my my battle to fight. So,
and Crane, you may not look at it this way, but I'm very concerned about Canada getting balkanized, where you're going to have provinces that are going to want to secede. Yeah, we've known that Quebec's wanted to do that for years with Parti Québécois up there, and I still think that could happen. But then you've got Alberta, Saskatchewan.
You just like to say Parti Quebec.
And I think those prairie provinces would love to somehow get hooked up with the U.S. because their insights and their political perspective is much closer to what we have here in the States.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna hear some of those voices in response to this for sure. Crane, any final thoughts before we cut you loose?
I think that is always a possibility, and it's been great to be with y'all.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for a little overtime. Even after 100 days of the Trump administration, my love for you has not diminished a bit. Crane Durham,
It will
nothing but truth.
finish my love for you.
Thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you again soon. Crane Durham from nothingbutruth.com and the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. Make sure you are checking those places out.
Go play some
every
tennis.
day. Yeah,
Crane.
that's what he's going to do. All right. Before we hand things off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show and the O'Reilly report, got a little bit more to talk about here, including a bill that was overwhelmingly supported and passed by the U.S. House. Nearly every single congressman and woman on both sides of the aisle voted for the same thing, which never happens. You could put we're going to put out a resolution that puppies are cute, and it would go down. The vote would go down on like political lines.
Yeah. Democrats would say no.
This vote was
Not cute.
409 to 2. What's the issue that has united everyone? We will fill you in on that and more as we go through this Tuesday afternoon here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
My secret side I keep hid under lock and key.
You're that far, you're going to have to go back toward the center.
News, analysis, and opinion.
I've never called a talk show before, but this just irked me.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You know, these storms again today, just a reminder that if in the storms and some of the severe weather that we have seen in recent times, maybe today's storm exposed a problem that you are having, that the team at Gutter Pros are there for you and the team to call if you're having any issues at your home or business regarding your gutters, regarding your siding, regarding the fascia and soffit at your home. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Leaf protection, gutter repair, new gutter installation, siding repair, new siding installation. They do it all at Gutter Pros, and we have been through the ringer here in the first few months of this year with some weather. And so if you have picked up any damage at your home or your business, or you think that there might be a problem, take advantage of their free estimates. Have Gutter Pros come out. They'll take a look. They'll tell you what's going on. They'll give, if there is a problem, they'll give you the options on how to go about addressing that issue. And then you're armed with that information and that peace of mind. And if there's nothing wrong, then even better, you're armed with that peace of mind. And it's cost you nothing to that point. And it costs you nothing until you decide to take that next step. Just one of the great offers that they have for you at Gutter Pros. And with all we've been through with the weather that we have seen over the last couple of months, just a really good idea. If you think there's a problem on the roof with your siding or with your gutters at your home or business, call the Gutter Pros now for at least that peace of mind. Gutter Pros, you can call them at 314-656-7195 or just go to their website, gutterpros.com.
Mom deserves something special this Mother's Day, and News Talk STL wants to help make it happen.
Come give your mama a kiss.
Register now for your chance to win amazing prizes for Mom, including gift cards from Candici's Catering and Express, Roman T. Jewelers, Freddy's Market, and Mario's Donut Restaurant.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Winners will be notified by email May 8, just in time for Mother's Day. Register now at newstalkstl.com or via the new News Talk STL mobile app. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Growing up, I had my mouth washed out with soap, literally. Maybe some of you did. Truly, I don't recall what I said, but I know it was not some of those words. But it's still enough to get me punished.
Nowadays, when it comes to politicians, especially those on the left, we're going to need more soap. It's not just happening on the campaign trail. It's happening on the floor of the House, the Senate. Oh, I know. I hear you. I hear some of you saying, and the Oval Office with Trump. Okay, let's back up a step. How did we get here? Kind of like asking, how did skirts start getting shorter and shorter? Or boys wearing skirts? Let's be clear. I'm not one to lecture anyone on curse words. But lately, where is the restraint? In recent weeks, progressive Dems have been dropping F-bombs like pennies. One Illinois progressive says her party needs to grow an effing spine, but she said that word. Some blame Trump for this evolution. In my opinion, they just want to attack Trump. I will acknowledge J.P. Vance, vice president, said about his grandmother, she loved God, but she also loved the F word. Yeah, we're going to need more soap.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington.
Looking for a rewarding career in caregiving? Truly Treasured Home Care is hiring experienced quality care providers now. Join our compassionate team, making a difference every day. Call 636-685-0508. That's 636-685-0508.
Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Day 100 for the Trump administration. Are you hearing that he's done anything good? Or hearing nothing but bad?
Larry Connors USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
You know, they're literally taking the Constitution and putting it in a paper shredder.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.994 News Talk STL. Real quick, I want to give a shout out here. Have you had any of the popcorn that's out there?
No, I haven't tried it yet.
Oh, it's so good.
Ooh, I wonder if there's any left for us.
It was, yeah, there's still some out there.
Okay.
It was dropped off by Ray Ray's Kettle Corn. Mobile company that you can hire for festivals, private events, things like that. And it is really, really good. I was not familiar with Ray Ray's until they brought us the popcorn.
Did you try the caramel
and
corn?
Now I'm a huge fan. I had the kettle corn.
Kettle corn. Okay.
Oh, man. Yeah, good stuff. You can check them out on their Facebook page, Ray Ray's Kettle Corn on Facebook. All right, as I mentioned yesterday, the United States House overwhelmingly passed a bill backed by First Lady Melania Trump that cracks down on the posting of explicit images, including deep fake nudes generated of people by AI without consent. The tools to address known exploitation by immobilizing technological deepfakes on websites and networks. The Take It Down Act. You know how much I hate when they try so hard to make an acronym. That's a mouthful, but something that the entire House essentially got behind. The tools to address known exploitation by immobilizing technological deepfakes on websites and networks. The Take It Down Act that was championed by Melania Trump was approved by a vote of 409-2 and now heads to President Donald Trump's desk. The measure generally prohibits the non-consensual online publication of intimate visual depictions of individuals, both authentic and computer generated, and requires certain online platforms to promptly remove such depictions upon receiving notice of their existence, according to the bill summary. The two people that voted against this, Republicans, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, Thomas Massey always there, and Eric Burlison of Missouri.
Really?
Yes, they cited Massey put out a quote, and from what I read, Burlison's thinking is along the same lines. Massey said, quote, "I'm voting no because I feel like this is a slippery slope ripe for abuse with unintended consequences." So I haven't looked deep enough into this bill to know whether Thomas Massey is right or wrong. I do know that I typically find myself agreeing with Thomas Massey more often than not. And the same thing for Eric Burlison, who's been on this show and is, in the past and several other shows here on the station. So I have to believe that if they voted no, there was they had a good reason to do so. But certainly, when you read the summary of what this bill does, it seems like it's a very, very good thing. Now, if there is open-endedness to it or gray area, that it as Massey says, can be ripe for abuse with unintended consequences, then maybe that could be a problem. But for the United States House to vote 409-2 on anything,
pretty shocking,
is
amazing,
is an incredible feat. So I'm definitely going to read more into this bill and see, if I agree with Thomas Massey and Representative Burlison that there is some concern to be had there.
Before you go on, since you're on the subject of acronyms and bills, I don't know if you heard that the Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments Act was reintroduced from Josh Hawley. You know what the acronym is for that?
No.
I know me reading it would make it tough to figure out.
Right.
The Pelosi Act. It spells Pelosi.
No, there's what I like. There's one of the rare ones that I actually like. If you know what? If you got to be creative to troll Nancy Pelosi, then I'm for it.
And guess what it's regarding? Banning members of Congress from trading or holding individual stocks.
Insider trading.
Exactly.
Which is what Nancy Pelosi has enriched her life with. And many others in Congress have done the same on both sides of the aisle, by the way. However, I think that Nancy Pelosi is somebody who has taken that to an extreme level. I think she's the poster child for that situation. Only a couple minutes here left here, Stell, but you were just mentioning something off the air that I was not familiar with. Can you tell us about what Amazon is doing and why they're making some news today?
There's I don't know if kerfuffle is the right word, but there's the conflicting stories on this. I heard early this morning that Amazon was going to add a little symbol on product listed on their website that would show that the price of this product is being affected by tariffs. But later in the day, I heard comments that, oh no, they're not going to do this. So I honestly don't know where it stands right at the moment. Knowing Jeff Bezos, I wouldn't be surprised at all that he would try to do something like that.
No, that is, because from a business standpoint, you would think to yourself, why would you ever want to call any attention to the price of something being raised? That doesn't do you any good as the as the platform. And then, of course, certainly the seller doesn't do any good if you're pointing out like, hey, look, this is more expensive than ever.
But here's,
however,
yes.
with that
Go ahead.
said,
Yeah.
I could definitely see Jeff Bezos and Amazon as a company getting politically involved like that and doing something like that. So
think of all the product that they sell that's made in China. And if all of that has some type of symbol on there to give you a tip off that the price of this increase because Trump's tariffs are affecting the cost of this product. Okay. But here's the other side of it that I heard someone point out later this morning that lets customers know that, okay, that's made in China. Find something else to buy. It's as though it would be a symbol to tell you, all right, if you're going to stand up for the values that you know are pro-American, then you need to go ahead and avoid this product and buy it from someone else, either made in the States or, for instance, I was looking at some boxes of Band-Aids at home the other day, and I thought, where are these made? Because normally you would think they're all China.
Yeah.
No, some of them are made in Brazil, some are made in Canada, and others are made in China. So if you go to the effort of actually looking to see where product is manufactured, it probably is a help having something that shows up on Amazon, but they may not do it.
yeah, well, like a where it was made thing.
Yes.
But not a tariffs impacted this. And if I was Amazon is, people are very critical of Amazon for very good reasons, especially when we're talking about politics and Jeff Bezos. However, as people like Mike McCleary from Enterprise will tell you, there are great small businesses all over the country that rely on Amazon sales,
definitely,
to survive. And if I was one of those small businesses and all of a sudden one of my products had this little logo or marking or whatever you want to call it, symbol showing up on it to draw attention to the fact that it's become more expensive, and that, which, if you think that through, the idea is, if you can wait, this will probably go back down. So don't buy it now. Like as a seller, as a small business, I would be furious at Amazon.
Yeah, I'd be upset.
It'd be very interesting to see.
So
how
we'll
that
follow
plays
up
out.
on
We'll
that.
definitely keep an eye on that. All right, that's going to do it for Stella and I. Colombo Company back tomorrow at 2. Keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, and the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show right here on News Talk STL.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stigall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here. Exciting things are happening at the Hideout in High Ridge, famous for the Sunset Patio, 4 big screen TVs, live music and events, and of course, the wings. The Hideout now has a brand new menu featuring